Once upon a time, there was a small village called Eloria, nestled on a fertile stretch of land surrounded almost entirely by water. Eloria was unlike any other village in the kingdom. Eloria was prosperous and rich, not just from fertile soil or trade, but because of an extraordinary bond with the sea. The village shared a sacred friendship with the Mermaids, the mermaid kingdom beneath the waves. The bond between land and water had been forged generations before, when the first king of Eloria, King Iola, had saved a wounded mermaid washed ashore during a storm. In gratitude, the mermaids blessed the village. They brought rare stones and golden artifacts from the seabed, taught them how to heal with sea herbs, and even sang the rains into the sky during seasons of drought. Feasts were held at the shore, where mermaids and villagers danced together under the moon. Children would gather around the visiting mermaids, wide-eyed and curious, while the elders nodded with respect. There was no fear, only wonder. But harmony, like a fragile tide, can recede when hearts grow restless. It began subtly. The men of Eloria, once devoted to their wives and homes, began lingering at the water's edge long after the feast had ended. They spoke in hushed tones of the mermaid's beauty, their skin that glowed like moonlight on water, their hair that flowed like liquid silk, and their eyes that sparkled like diamonds beneath the sun. At first, it was harmless. A glance. A compliment. Then came the obsession. They stopped noticing their wives' braided hair, the beads they wore, or the songs they sang to put their babies to sleep. They stopped coming home with fish and returned only with tales of the sea. The village women, once the heart of Eloria, grew resentful, jealous, and afraid. And jealousy, like salt in a wound, turned bitter. Beneath the calm exterior of Eloria, a storm brewed. It whispered through the kitchens where wives cooked alone, and it echoed in the silence of empty beds where husbands no longer returned with warmth in their hearts. The women of the village, led by Queen Nena, grew tired of watching their homes erode beneath waves of neglect. So they turned to ancient whispers, dangerous ones. Queen Nena summoned a long-banished sea priestess named Eloria, a woman whose very name had once stirred fear. Eloria had been exiled for practicing forbidden magic that blurred the line between land and sea. But now, desperate, the queen and her circle of women offered her gold, herbs, and silence in exchange for a spell, a ritual that would bind the mermaids' magic and make them like humans. Vulnerable. Powerless. Mortal. Eloria agreed, but her warning went unheard. The sea sings, but it remembers every echo. The ritual was set for the night of 3 moons, when the ocean's tide pulled hardest. The mermaids, unaware, were invited to a grand feast. They came adorned in sea glass jewelry and gifts from the deep. Children danced. Drums played. Wine flowed. But beneath the rhythm of joy, the women chanted in secret, burning herbs stolen from the sacred tide pools. At the climax of the feast, Eloria's spell took hold. And the mermaids screamed. Their skin cracked like drying clay. Their luminous eyes dimmed. Their fins stiffened into painful knots. But what the women didn't know was that mermaid sorrow holds power, old, unmeasured power. As they cried, their wails became unbearable harmonics, splitting the air. The cries shattered pots, windows, even bones. The echoes pulsed through the village, rupturing the hearts of those standing nearby. Dozens fell dead, children, elders, women. The king arrived too late, only to find his court bathed in blood and the beach littered with lifeless bodies, some human, some half-human, half-sea. And in the middle of it all, the surviving mermaids fled in agony into the sea, their cries fading into a haunting silence. No one told the king what truly happened. They told him the mermaids attacked. That they came to take the men. That they came to make Eloria their own. Enraged, King Iola declared vengeance. Let no creature of the sea step foot upon this land and live. We shall drive them to the darkest pit of the ocean. So began the Great Purge. Hunters chased mermaids with nets woven from volcanic fiber. Spears were sharpened with obsidian. The sea turned red for days. A few mermaids escaped, carrying the tales of betrayal to the deepest parts of the ocean. And far beneath the waves, the queen of the mermaids, Queen Olican, rose in her wrath. From this day forth, should a human ever cross your path, do not speak. Do not reason. Kill. Peace shattered. War began. Centuries passed. Generations came and went. The story of the Great Purge twisted into myth. Children were warned not to swim too far or the sea witches would steal their souls. The village forgot the truth and remembered only their hate. By the time of King Zubri, the 10th descendant of Ayula, Eloria had become a proud but cursed kingdom. Crops grew, but never flourished. Fishermen returned with half-filled nets. And worst of all, the king had no heir. The queen, beloved but barren, wept in silence. Priests were summoned. Sacrifices made. Still, no child. Until one night, the village oracle emerged from a month-long trance with bloodshot eyes and trembling lips. The womb shall remain dry until the sea is honored. Only the golden fish that swims in the forbidden deep can break the curse. Feed it to the queen, and the womb shall open. But the forbidden deep was the sacred trench where mermaids still reigned, and where humans had not dared venture in over 100 years. Still, hope burned hotter than fear. King Zubri summoned 7 of the strongest, wisest, and bravest men of Eloria. Among them was a quiet fisherman named Obadele. Unlike the others, Obadele was not a warrior nor noble. But he was loved. Not for his strength, but his heart. Obadele was kind, devout, and deeply respectful of traditions. He spoke to elders with bowed head, sang to the sea before every voyage, and left offerings at the shrine of forgotten spirits. While others mocked the old ways, Obadele honored them. The 7 men set out on a ship crafted with sacred wood and wrapped in protection charms. But the sea would not welcome them. First came the storm of teeth, a tempest that tore one sail and nearly drowned 2 men. Then came the whispers, voices in the night tempting them to jump into the water. 1 man obeyed, and was never seen again. Days turned to weeks. Food ran out. Hope dwindled. And then, stillness. They awoke one morning in the eye of a silent sea, their ship surrounded by glowing blue lights beneath the waves. A haunting song hummed through the air, and the mermaids rose. The 7 men found themselves imprisoned beneath the shimmering waves, held captive in a grand coral palace that pulsed with the soft glow of bioluminescent sea life. The mermaid queen's eyes held both sorrow and strength as she addressed them, her voice echoing through the underwater hall. You trespassers of the ocean shall be tested, for only the worthy may seek the golden fish. Each of you will face a trial that will reveal your true heart, your loyalty, and your strength. Fail, and you shall remain prisoners forever. One by one, the men were led into separate chambers, where the mermaids' challenges awaited. The first man, rugged and fierce, was plunged into a cavern filled with illusions, visions of his deepest fears and darkest regrets. He trembled, haunted by shadows of the past, but instead of overcoming his terror, he faltered and pleaded for release. His spirit was broken, the mermaids left him to the cold darkness. The second faced a tempestuous whirlpool, swelling violently as if the sea itself wished to swallow him whole. To pass, he had to swim against the currents, enduring exhaustion and the bitter sting of salt water. But his pride turned to rage when the storm battered him, and in a moment of despair, he lashed out, cursing the mermaids, a sign of weakness in their eyes. The third was cast into a silent abyss, surrounded by ghostly shapes of drowned souls, testing his strength of spirit. He stood firm, but his heart wavered when a vision of his family lost to the sea appeared, begging for rescue. He faltered, the fear of failure clouding his mind. The fourth was tempted by riches beyond imagining, treasures glittering like stars on the ocean floor. But he succumbed to greed, clutching at jewels and pearls while the sands beneath him began to shift, threatening to trap him forever. The fifth and sixth faced their own agonizing trials, one forced to choose between saving himself or a stranger, the other challenged to silence his anger in the face of betrayal. Both failed, their flaws laid bare. Then came the seventh man, Obadele, known for his unwavering kindness, his quiet strength, and his devotion to his people. His trial was unlike the others. He was brought before the heart of the ocean itself, a sacred place where spirits of the sea whispered secrets on the currents. Here, he was tested not by fear or temptation but by truth. A voice echoed in his mind, "What is loyalty? What is honor? What do you seek?" He answered with humility, "I seek only to serve my village, to heal the wounds of the past, and to restore peace between our peoples." The mermaids watched as he faced visions of the past, the joyful gatherings by the fire, the terrible night when the ritual backfired, the cries of the mermaids that no one understood, and the innocent lives lost in the confusion. Tears welled in his eyes, not for vengeance, but for forgiveness. Moved by his sincerity, the mermaid queen smiled. "You are the one who carries the heart of both worlds. You shall have the golden fish and gifts beyond your imagining." With a graceful wave of her hand, the golden fish, shimmering with scales of pure light, appeared, swimming gently into his hands. She placed a delicate crown of pearls on his head and whispered, "With this, you will see the spirits of those who linger between worlds, and with this," she touched his palm, "you shall cast out the shadows that haunt your people." As he felt a warm power surge through him, the other men, broken and defeated, were released from their chambers, left behind to reflect on their own failures. The journey home was no less perilous, but now Obadele carried a newfound strength and purpose. When he returned to the village, the people were weary, stories of the sea's cruelty ran deep, and the scars of war were not easily forgotten. The king greeted him with skepticism, "What proof have you that the mermaids are anything but enemies?" Obadele lifted the golden fish, its radiant glow illuminating the hall, and spoke with quiet conviction. "They are not our enemies. Long ago, a terrible misunderstanding shattered the bond between our people. The mermaids' cries were never a weapon, they were a desperate call for help when a ritual went wrong, a sorrow that killed without intent." He revealed the gifts given by the queen, and the queen ate the golden fish, and within days, she conceived. The following days Obadele demonstrating his newfound power by casting out a dark spirit that had plagued the village elder for years. The crowd gasped as the elder's anguished expression softened, and peace returned to his eyes. Slowly, fear and hatred gave way to hope. But peace was fragile. Old wounds ran deep, and many villagers resisted forgiveness, clinging to stories of vengeance. Obadele did not falter. Night after night, he spoke by the fire, recounting the truth, sharing the mermaid's sorrow, and reminding the village of their shared past. Then disaster struck, a great storm threatened to flood the village, the river rising with violent force. The villagers, powerless against nature's wrath, turned to Obadele for help. Guided by his gift, he called upon the spirits of the sea and sky, pleading for mercy. As the winds howled and the waters rose, a shimmering wave appeared, part sea and part light, pushing back the floodwaters just enough to save the village. Tears flowed freely as the villagers witnessed the mercy of the mermaids through his actions. Finally, the king stood before the people, voice heavy with emotion. "We were blinded by fear and anger, but today we see clearly. On behalf of all who came before us, I offer the mermaids our deepest apology." In the days that followed, the village and the mermaid kingdom rekindled their ancient bond. Fires burned brighter on the shore as villagers and mermaids shared meals once more, their laughter mingling with the songs of the sea. Peace returned, not as a fragile truce, but as a lasting promise, forged through trials, sacrifice, and the courage of one man who bridged two worlds. This is the tale of the village and the sea. A story where lies and betrayal tore apart the harmony between two worlds. And one brave man's unwavering values restored what was lost. Obadele reminded us that even in the face of ruin, kindness, truth, and courage can mend the deepest wounds. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. For more breathtaking tales from the chirping bird, where stories come alive.